all-knowing and all-powerful, starting with the elderly wolf uncle. Chapter 82. She spread her hands, and what she said clearly meant something. Boom. Nick Fury stood up, slapped his hands angrily on the tabletop, his eyelids trembling as if suppressing anger, and stared at Natasha. Natasha stared at the other's gaze and picked her white chin, not caring. It's just that the atmosphere in the office has begun to look tense. Agent Hill looked at Nick Fury, looking at Natasha again, wanted to say something, but didn't know how to speak. Nick Fury took a deep breath and sat back in his chair. Chen Tian's affairs, I will deal with it. After the voice fell, Natasha raised her eyebrows and didn't say anything more. As for the other two, facing the director, they didn't know what to say. The office suddenly fell silent again. After another while, Nick Fury took a deep breath again and said with a serious expression, Hill and Barton, I need you to take someone to Xavier College next. Quote, find out for me the brainwave enhancement machine that was hidden in the basement by the professor before, and when Hill and Hawkeye heard this, they reacted immediately. Nick Fury was planning to use that machine against mutants. Chen Tian, a dangerous mutant, shows too strong strength. This idea of yours is a good way. Hawkeye thought about it, nodded and said, however, this machine requires a mutant with an ability like Professor Charles to use. Now we don't have this kind of person in SHIELD. As for Professor Charles, Chen Tian's people are on the side of him. You're not going to help us. Agent Hill was quick to voice his concerns. I have to say that it is precisely because of her meticulous mind that she successfully took over the position of SHIELD speaker later. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. Nick, after hearing the other party's concerns, Fury said resolutely. It's just that he didn't intend to explain what he was going to do next. Seeing this, Hill and Hawkeye were not good to continue asking. Just spoke in unison. Received. So what is my mission? After listening to the task arrangement of the other two, Natasha immediately asked. All three of them were Nick Fury shouted over. Everyone will naturally have a task. Nick Fury glanced at her, took a document from under the table, and placed it on the table. The document reads, The Avengers Plan, 1 by 1. I met Captain Marvel many years ago, and she's a special person who has been through a lot. Nick Fury said slowly, and that's when I realized that we humans must have a problem that is strong enough to deal with crises outside the race. Quote. Saying that, he raised his eyes and looked at the three people in front of him. Obviously, now that the crisis has come, I must do something in advance. Quote. Subsequently, Nick Fury set his eyes on Natasha. You'll go with me tomorrow to find Tony Stark. Get him to join Project Avengers. Project Avengers. When Natasha heard this, she couldn't help but mumble. Nick Fury nodded. I'll tell you the details before I leave tomorrow. Subsequently, Nick, who has completed all the tasks, Fury asked a few people to leave first. The office fell silent again. Nick Fury sat in his chair, took out the red blue bee with the Captain Marvel logo on it, and fell silent. The fingers rubbed on the BB machine for a long time, and then slowly put it away. As a last resort, he would never use it. Captain Marvel is the last whole card in his hand when he reaches a desperate situation and has no way to retreat. Chapter 70 Immortal Hulk Bloodline super doubled. Time passed quickly overnight. Next, when the heaven and earth converged, and the first rays of morning sunlight appeared, Chen Tian had already got up. He stood on the balcony, closed his eyes and spread his arms, feeling the sun shine. The early morning sun hardly carries much temperature. But when it shone on Chen Tian, for a while, he had the feeling of soaking in a hot spring with a suitable temperature. The cells in and below his body seemed to be excited at this moment, constantly becoming active. He didn't even need to do anything deliberately by Chen Tian, he just needed to stand in the sun. His body will automatically begin to absorb the tilde energy in the sunlight. It's an amazing feeling. After Chen Tian obtained the Krypton bloodline, the sun was given some new meaning to him. That's where the power comes from. At this moment, he is bathed in sunlight, and all the cells in his body are constantly absorbing energy from the star, dividing at an extremely fast speed and growing. Stellar energy delivered through sunlight is stored in muscles. Not only will he never be hungry, but it will also change his body. It's a good feeling of increasing strength. Chen Tian raised his hand and clenched his fist. He could feel his strength, and he was getting stronger every minute. He can clearly feel the changes in the epithelium, muscles, bones, and internal organs of the body, and with the division of cells, the density of his body is constantly tightening. Crazy arrangement and reorganization, which is a huge evolution from the basis of life. At the same time, the amount of solar energy absorbed into the body begins to become more pure as the body transforms, and becomes more and more intense under refining and compression. Rather than absorbing stellar energy as the cornerstone of Kryptonian evolution, stellar energy is a catalyst throughout the evolutionary process. Chen Tian sensed the direction of physical energy, and suddenly had this feeling. In fact, the strengthening itself comes from the potential of Krypton's bloodline, and the sun's illumination merely provides kinetic energy that speeds up the process. And the ability to absorb into the body will be increased, that is, the previous refinement is more refined. Just a wisp of stellar energy into the body will be immediately stimulated and strengthened. And this increase increases as the body gets stronger, and the effect continues to increase. This is the important reason why Superman can transcend the universe itself. Chen Tian sighed. Looking up, I found that the sun at the skyline had completely jumped above the ground level, and the hole was exposed there. The projected sunlight gradually blazes. The faster Chen Tian's body bathed in it, the faster it absorbed the sunlight, and the faster it became powerful. Be aware of this. He suddenly left the ground with his feet slowly and flew towards the rising sun. I'm getting stronger. Chen Tian muttered and closed his eyes, opened his arms, and allowed his body to be illuminated by the sun as much as possible. The stellar light that crossed the universe, passed through the atmosphere, and shone on him. The energy contained in it was rapidly absorbed by his body. Penetrates between cells. All the cells were more excited, absorbing energy, and frantically strengthening Chen Tian's body epithelium, muscles, bones, internal organs. Everything is at this time, step towards strength. The breath of the whole person became more and more powerful. At this time, Chen Tian's body emitted an energy fluctuation, wrapping his whole body, which was a body of steel in a biological stance. With a beautiful face, fair skin and a well-proportioned figure, he is the best aesthetic master to see, and he can't find a single flaw. He stood under a round of great sun, and his body outlined a round of gold, exuding a burst of divine majesty. Looking into the past, like a god rather than a man. Chen Tian himself also enjoyed this feeling very much. After a while, knocking one by one, Chen Tian heard a knock on his door. "Chen, are you up?" A timid and soft girl sounded cautiously. "It's Wanda." Chen Tian heard her voice, came back to his senses and smiled suddenly, only then fell back to the balcony and went over to open the door. Chapter 1 Previous